do.
Hello, guys. Welcome to the Tash and Beck. Oh, nice glasses.
They're my new ones. They're my blue ones.
Okay. Welcome to the Tash and Beck's Flex. It looks you look really weird.
Do I?
You do. So today, really excited and honoured to have Carrie on with us today. So basically, I've devoured all your information probably over the last maybe 8 months or something like that. And I've done your circadian starter kit that you do, which is a really good free course, which sort of focuses on natural and junk light, like the differences between it, and seeing the sunrise and seeing the UVA and the UVB in the mornings. So a little bit about Carrie. So she has multiple degrees in biology, nutrition, and bodywork. She is one of the leading educators in the emerging field of quantum biology. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And is a member of the Quantum Biology Collective. And she teaches her clients how to create a healing environment by applying quantum healing strategies around light, water, electrons, and mitochondrial support.
Love it. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks. I'm so thrilled to chat with you both. I'm so excited for the enthusiasm too, so thank you.
Well, recently, all of our research has been along those lines, hasn't it, Tash?
Yeah.
Electromagnetism, light, structured water, EZ water. We've done a lot around all of that. So talking to you today is like, and this is the woman who has all the information.
And also even shadow. We were talking a little bit, and I know you've done a bit about that, about how important the shadow light is as well.
Yes.
I know. Yeah. So it's like light in its different forms, right? So it's not just the light, but also the darkness, the yin and the yang. I mean, it just all comes full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. So I reckon we should start just with the basics about the light spectrum, how important light is to us, and sort of how we can use it in our everyday life to sort of help our health, basically.
Yeah, sure. You know, I think when I first thought of light, I didn't think that there was really any difference between light coming from a light bulb versus light coming from the sun. I knew like plants would grow outside better than, I don't have a green thumb, but they would grow better than indoors. And I knew that there was some basic differences, but really, I never thought that me as a human, that I interacted with light in any great capacity. And so, you know, I started to dive into this work when I was getting sick myself and tried everything under the sun, except the sun, right? And so then I finally found the work of Dr. Jack Kruse, and light was the main theme. And I was like, okay, I'm missing something about light, right? So what is it? Why is light from the sun so healing? And it's because we interact with it in so many different ways that I never thought of beyond, oh, does it help me see my environment, or is it dark? And so I think a really good way to start is to, and if you're cool with this, is to just introduce people to the fact that light from the sun is always changing all day long, right? And so if we've seen light from the sun get split up via a rainbow or a prism, and we see the different colors, those are called wavelengths. And those wavelengths don't just stay the same, right? It's not just always this amount of red, this amount of orange, et cetera, et cetera. And instead, as dawn approaches and the sun comes up, there's a certain blend of light. There's some key light in there, and it does things, and we can go into that. And then as the sun gets to the high point in the sky at solar noon, the light is always changing. We're layering on colors, we're layering on brightness and intensity. And those are all variables that the body interacts with to do things like not only determine time of day, which is basically our circadian signaling or our circadian rhythm, but also those different colors and wavelengths in their intensities can kickstart a lot of pathways in the body. And so light is this changing amount of energy and information. It's the information part of light that I had never thought about before, and that my body keys in on that information really in these morning hours that really clinically I see a big bang for these morning hours and the changes that happen in those wavelengths that just kickstarts my body in so many different ways with the information that those wavelengths contain.
Because this was the thing when the beginning for me was when we did the stuff on the electromagnetism, and the fact that within there is the light, but also information. That was the bit where I went, oh, Oh.
And also that it's an energy. The sun is an energy thing as well.
Yes.
It's actual like food, and the same as food, but you can get it through.
And
the
that
sunlight.
just made the whole thing just go for me, just opened it up hugely. Anyway, really good explanation of the sort of basis of the light of the day, the natural sunlight of the day.
Yeah,
but that's true. If someone I'm sorry, but if someone does, I love what you just said about if someone looks at something called the electromagnetic spectrum, of course, we see a radio wave, and I could just tune a radio right now, boom, and the information comes right in we have an antenna in this radio to receive exactly that signal. I have those antennae, we call them receptors, in my body, on my skin, in my eyes, and it's the exact same thing. Love that analogy.
Yeah. So what you're saying then is the rays that we see in a prism, when we see a rainbow or whatever, those frequencies, those colors are being released to or sent to us, that information in those throughout the day as the sun moves through that spectrum that we can perceive with the equipment that we've got, our little peepers.
And it sets all of our cortisol, the hypothalamus and everything like that, basically.
Exactly. It really initiates so many different pathways. Because, we're complex organisms, and, every cell, it's approximated, has 100,000 tasks happening every single second. So something's got to coordinate it. Yeah. And so we realize now that we've got this clock in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It sits in the middle of our brain near our hypothalamus, and it wants to know the time of day. And it communicates that time of day via a vibration, because that's instantaneous to every cell in my body. So my cells know, oh yeah, let's express that protein, but not that one. Oh, now is the time to like upregulate some repair hormones. Oh, now we really need to upregulate cortisol. And so everything is keyed into that timing mechanism. And that timing mechanism is determined specifically by one of those frequency ranges of light. It's the blue light frequency, which, and that was the perfect frequency to key in on as a living complex organism, because for all intents and purposes, it's not present before sunrise in enough of an intensity to really signal anything. At sunrise, its intensity starts to be such that those sensors that I have for blue wavelengths in the backs of my eyes and on my skin start popping off and saying, oh, day has started, gets communicated to that clock in the brain. Then that blue intensifies till solar noon. Okay, so the day is moving. And then after solar noon, that blue goes away until after sunset, it's no longer being picked up as well. And so my brain and my body can tell time of day by the presence of blue light, and it's changing pattern throughout the day. And so that was really great for a long time until light bulbs came around and screen technology came around, because we invented artificial sources of blue light that can really just mess with that whole timing mechanism.
Well, I guess if you're looking at a phone with a blue screen, it's telling you that it's almost high noon.
Yeah, high noon all the time when you're looking at a screen,
I would imagine. So therefore your melatonin and stuff like that isn't going to be working.
Sleep problems, which we know lots of people have, and we know to turn off the screens. Yeah, but you've always had that.
I've always had bad sleep problems, and I do with your glasses that you've got on. I have got some glasses like that, so I've got the ones that you can clip on. The they're not Viva rays, but they're similar, so you can clip on. They're sort of amber color, and then
perfect.
So I definitely feel the red ones an hour before sleep most certainly help me go to sleep, I'd say, but not necessarily stay asleep, but it certainly does something.
That zone.
Yeah. So maybe you could explain a little bit about the glasses.
Sure. These have like a yellowish tone to them, and I wear them anytime I'm indoors around artificial light, even though I mitigate my screens. I mean, even light through a window technically is not natural light, because modern window glass, blocks a lot of the key frequencies. And so my eyes feel best when I'm wearing these, in front of a screen and indoors. But then the key thing, as you alluded to, about the amber tone glasses, what's really nice about an orange lens is that this orange tone and the red, it prevents any of the blue from penetrating through it. So if I have these on, these are, an industrial version that my kids really like. And then I've got, my Viva Rays ones. Actually, these are the red tone ones. Oh no, here's the orange. these types of ones. These ones
I've got the magnet on.
Oh,
I like that.
So you pop these. I have these on before sunrise because if I'm just a modern human, right, I'm going to be flipping some lights on in the house to do things like use the bathroom, pack the lunches, find school uniforms, all those types of things. And so, but I don't have to compromise the timing mechanism anymore, because this is going to prevent that blue from artificially kickstarting my day way too early. And so you can imagine the average person, you know, wakes up sometime, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 a.m. And there's times throughout the year where that's not sunrise yet.
Yeah,
and so if right. Yeah. And you flip that light on, or you know, what's the first thing we do? It's like, what time is it? Has anyone emailed me? Right. Like anything important, what's anything noteworthy in the news, like stuff like that. And so so it's really easy to see how we can really fast forward our circadian signaling way too far in the day and miss all those gradual transitions that need to occur, because things have to happen in a set order. Yeah. And once one pathway is kickstarted, it's like a chain reaction. It's like dominoes. So it's like, you picture these. I love, like, honestly, like guilty pleasure, I love watching these dominoes on YouTube when people set up these dominoes. Right. And you just kickstart one domino and everything just, you know, all of a sudden comes into play. All these complex interactions take place. And the same thing happens with light for us. We just need to get the kickstart. And that kickstart happens with the changing frequencies. And then a whole heck of a lot of complex stuff takes place in our bodies. But if we're not getting that initial little boost of blue first thing in the morning and instead jumping straight into solar noon, we've missed a whole heck of a lot, right? And so we're just not going to kickstart the pathways in the way that we were designed to kickstart them.
So, I mean, you know, the body's really intelligent, and what you're doing is kind of messing up the order of its intelligence,
which is connected to the hypothalamus, which is connected to the hormones, which is connected to your energy levels, which is connected to your sleep levels, which is connected to your mood, which is connected to
everything. Ding, ding, ding. Exactly. So I think these days as a clinician, I see so many people with sleep issues. We can talk about that blue light at night, but also with hormone imbalance. And to me, if I see that combination of sleep issues and hormone imbalance, I automatically ask them about their light exposure. And typically what I'm going to hear 99 times out of 100 is no concept of needing to mitigate light at night, right? And just kind of go home and then as to decompress, scrolling or watching TV, or even in bed, right? You know, scrolling, trying to fall asleep, and then no morning light. Because as that sun breaks the horizon, you're right. The first thing that it does, that blue, is it kickstarts the hypothalamic pituitary axes. And so the hypothalamus and pituitary gland can communicate to the adrenal glands to make cortisol. And actually they first talk to the adrenal glands and the ovaries and the reproductive organs to make pregnenolone. It's this master steroid hormone that then can become cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, DHEA. And oftentimes what's missing is that kickstart. People are not getting out near sunrise to even start to make that pregnenolone accordingly in the first place. And then also you've got the thyroid, right? You got the HP thyroid axis, the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. Hypothyroidism is another one that's rampant.
I mean, so many people have got thyroid problems.
Yeah, and
it's so common.
And they go straight to the doctor,
straight
on thyroxine or what have you. Boom. And then that's what they do for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Right. You know, don't get me wrong. I've had clients who going on a little bit of thyroid medication was a lifesaver for them in terms of being able to still live a productive lifestyle, but it's not the solution. It's not the cure. That's exactly it. It's maybe a Band-Aid, a support mechanism. But what's happening is, are we just not communicating hypothalamus pituitary thyroid appropriately with the light signaling? And I find that with thyroid, that first kickstart in the morning is really key. But then as that sun reaches higher, to what you alluded to UVA rise, Tash, I think that was you, UVA rise, right? That's when ultraviolet light first appears. That is really powerful for thyroid hormone as well. And when people start to just recognize the importance of going outside at these chunks of time in the morning and consistently getting these signals met, kickstarting these different dominoes, then it's like, it really, I don't want to say it's magical, but it really is impressive to see how many symptoms that I would have back in the day been like, you need a supplement for this, a supplement for that, a supplement for that. And now it's just like, oh, gosh,
light.
Yeah, you need light. Exactly. You need to kickstart those pathways, and then the body knows what to do.
So, but you need light
at the right time,
and you need the red because do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't like light, as in non-natural light. We don't like going in the shops very much. I have out-of-body experiences in shops, and I'm sure it's because of the fluorescent lighting. And at home, I call it the satanic. I'll come in, I go, who put the satanic light on? Because I don't want the main light on. We have candles, and then I have some upstairs in my room. I have a coloured light. I can change the colour of it.
Oh yeah.
So I can have it on, blue or red, or so I have that and candlelight. But I don't like these big. When someone puts the big light on at night, I'm like, oh, turn it off. Also, it's horrible.
Don't you think one of the worst things that they've done with light pollution is these modern smart cars now that have their lights on all day long? That's doing it to us in the natural on a summer's day.
The lights just come on automatically when you start the engine up.
Crazy. So therefore, driving along and we're getting all of this false light, which is then giving us the wrong signals for the time of day.
You hit the nail on the head, right? Like there's so much junk light. So I think everyone would acknowledge a diet of just junk food is going to lead to issues. And I just want people to start to elevate light to that same standard, that junk light can be equally, if not more chaotic. And you're right. Like, I don't know what they did to street lights too, like overhead street lights, just
LED.
And what I really appreciate about kind of living this, what I would call a circadian lifestyle for quite some time now, I used to not necessarily get a visceral reaction to those things. I was a college volleyball player. I was under fluorescent lights my whole entire career. Now I was slowly getting more and more injuries and worse sleep. So looking back on it, I know it wasn't necessarily a healthy environment for me, but I didn't think anything of walking into a fluorescent lit space. And now when I walk in, my body knows that it's like not a good signal. It's like, I got this, the spooky sense, right? The spidey sense of like, nope, get in and out as quickly as you can, because this ultimately isn't an ideal situation for you.
That's what I'm like in shops.
I get sick.
I have literally, I feel like I'm being pulled backwards out of my body.
I feel like I get nausea. I get
panicky.
Like I'm on a boat. I feel like I'm rocking, and then I feel like I'm on drugs or something, and that all the people are thinking, Christ, look at her, she's on, because I just feel like I've got to get out of it.
Staggering around. And
I realise it is the light. It must be the light. Because it's as soon as I go in, I'm like, oh, I feel really weird.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm a in and out kind of shopper. But so basically we need to start referring to junk light, like we talk about junk food. That's a really good way of kind of bringing it into normalizing it. Yeah, that just as we're careful about the food we eat, we need to be careful about
the light we consume,
light that we're letting in.
That's exactly it. And I don't think people are familiar with light bulbs, but if you ever just do a Google search of light spectrum fluorescent lights or fluorescent bulbs, you'll see it's like, unlike the rainbow blend of sunlight that's just so beautiful and has the full blend and it changes and moves all day long. It's like big dose of blue or green, big dose of yellow and orange. It's just so foreign and chaotic. It's just such a chaotic signal. So that's why the body reacts the way that you're experiencing, the way I experience, because it's just like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What just happened? And it's just very, very chaotic. And then it's even worse, I think, when we get that artificial light after sunset, when none of those wavelengths, no blue, no green that we see in these modern LED bulbs would be present from candle light, from campfire. They just wouldn't be there. And so oftentimes what I see is someone who has like exposure to artificial light at night, that's then going to give them their second wind. It's almost like they don't get the signaling in the morning. So they're kind of flatlined all day long, really low energy all day long. And then sun goes down, stare at a screen, zing, I get my second wind. I can't go to bed now until 1 o'clock if I tried. It's like, you just told your brain it was another day.
I know loads of people that say that exactly. I have no energy all day. And then just around the time I'm supposed to go to bed, I'm not tired and I don't want to go to sleep. That is,
and it sounds like a drug user, doesn't it? I'm flat all day long, and then I get my junk light at night, and then I feel again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a big it's a big hit of energy with the cortisol and a big hit of dopamine, right? I mean, it really truly is. And so people then they technically feel really good. Then they wouldn't ever consider that pathological. And oftentimes I work with a lot of people. A lot of them are creative types who it's like, well, that's when I write, or that's when I paint, or that's when I create. And it's like, I get that. But here's why you feel like that's your energizing time. And here's what's happening to your melatonin. Because when your cortisol surges because it thinks it's another day, your melatonin goes, oh, never mind. I thought we were about to sleep, but boom, boom, boom. And it just tanks. And so you're not going to build up adequate melatonin for a long time then. And then, good luck waking up in the morning at an appropriate time as well to kind of catch all those signals again.
Because then you miss the beginning of the day. And so then you're out of sync the next day. And so it goes on.
Yeah, I have to say, since I've been doing it's a bit difficult here in the summer to do the sunrise because it's quite early, obviously,
absolutely,
the way our seasons are. But since I've been
sorry, we've got two dogs trying to
I love it.
They're randy.
Well, she's on heat. Well, she's just coming out of heat and he just won't give up. Anyway,
just trying to control them under the table.
Persistent.
Oh, you can't see what we can see, I tell you.
It's the nibbling that's going on. There's loads of like nibbling going on. Sorry, what were we saying?
I've gone blank now. Thinking about dogs. You were saying
I was saying since I've been
so
sometimes I can't get outside because I'm just not quite awake enough. But even just my window faces east anyway. So I literally just open the window and I have my cup of tea on the windowsill with the window wide open and I just gaze east. And then I've got the app that you recommended, the circadian one. And on that app, it then tells you the UVA and the UVB.
Oh, just it?
Yeah. So then I try and do the dog walk to time in with that. So then you've got like 20 minutes to get that type of light into you, because you need longer for that period, don't you?
You're being
ideally, I just find people get such a bit so that's the thing. If you can't make sunrise technically, because certain latitudes, I don't want you waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 5, even 5, if that's not an ideal wake up time for you to catch the sunrise. But that UVA rise that you're talking about, that is like gold in terms of kickstarting a whole bunch of other signals as well. And the body appears to be able to catch up with it. It appears to be able to say, okay, yep, this is still morning. Let's still communicate HP stuff, hypothalamus, pituitary stuff. And now UVA rise, you're just going to start to make more serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine and like chemicals that make you feel neurochemicals that make you feel really good and really focused and kind of like ready to kickstart and enjoy your day.
So even if you've missed sunrise, don't worry about it. Get out there and pick up the
UV.
Yeah.
So to do that, it would also be wise though, wouldn't it, to not have your blue light pollution before. So even if you couldn't have seen the sunrise, you still want to avoid your screens or put your reds on until you get out into that environment again.
Ideally. You can also, there's ways that you can program your screen to be a redder tone to eliminate the blue as well. So I tell people to do the best that they can, because also, I don't know, I feel like as people find this information, they really resonate with it, right? They're like, oh gosh, this makes sense. This just makes sense. But then a lot of people get into the mindset of perfectionism. Like, oh no, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had to use the bathroom and I accidentally flipped a light on before I forgot. And did I screw it up? Is it all? It's like, no, the human body is much smarter than that, right? Just so be consistent. And so if people can just consistently get morning light into their eyes, the body starts to really adapt and adjust to it. And then, if the times of year when it's convenient to catch that sunrise, that is a really key thing to do, to try to do as consistently as possible.
Yeah. And would you say the sunrise is more important than the sunset for the setting of the hormones? In sunset, you can technically artificially facilitate that for your brain simply by putting on a pair of blue blockers. So these ones block the majority of almost all the blue, and the red ones and then the red ones block the blue and the green. So red might be a really good one for you, Tosh, because it's really good for people if they feel like they used to be night owls, like have that night owl characteristic of not being able to go to bed at a circadian appropriate time. And so that blocks the green wavelengths that can also be stimulating to some people's brains. So I'd say the red's on an hour before your desired bedtime, oranges sometime around sunset or nightfall, which you can find on that circadian app that you referred to. And then it's just a good habit. I'm telling my brain the day is over. I'm going outside in the morning to tell my brain the day has begun, right? Naked eyes, like you said, naked eyes, sky gaze, take little light breaks throughout the day, because the body will interact with that information accordingly and align everything and try to sync everything up to it, which is all the body's always looking to do. We're looking to interpret our environment and adapt accordingly. And light is really a primary signal for that. It's because obviously I wear glasses and I'm really quite blind. And I'm torn quite a lot of the time between trying to get the light in my eyes and not being able to see anything. I'm like getting really angry. I'm like, why am I so angry? And it's like, it's because I can't see.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's right. No need to get angry. Like I have clients, you know, and who will oftentimes just like every once in a while, if they're outside sky gazing, they'll just slide them down, you sky gaze for a minute, and then you go on your merry little way, right? It allows you to at least get a direct signal. But yeah, you know, you do the best you can.
I think you do the best you can. Clip-on coloured ones anyway that you could probably clip over these.
To put them on top.
Yeah, I need ones that I could just clip on top. But it's funny, I'm like, why am I getting so like, and it's because I can't see anything.
Out.
Yeah, so I'm like going,
yeah.
I put my glasses on.
You're getting your light.
But I'm getting my light.
Yeah.
Getting the light.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. So I have been looking at the sunset as well, because I do quite like sunsets, and that timing's quite easy where we are at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, where we are on the plane, if you like, it's quite easy to get the sunset, and I do actually find that quite comforting,
calming.
Yeah,
say calming.
Yeah, I do quite. I just sit out on the doorstep and just drink a glass of structured water, sit on the doorstep, and just sort of watch the sky go red
through the colours.
Yeah, and I do like it. Structured water, that's one we need to talk about. EZ water, exclusion zone water, is that the correct?
Exclusion zone, yeah. EZ, EZ, right? Easy, depending on how you speak your alphabet, right? You know, but
I say
potato, right? It's really all the same. Easy, EZ, and yeah. Have you interviewed Gerald Pollack at all?
No.
Got to reach out to Jerry. He is such a sweet person to chat with about this stuff. But yeah, so you want to dive into structured water, easy water?
Yeah.
Oh, where do we begin? Right? Where do we begin? I mean, the idea for me that was really mind-blowing, again, like light, like I thought all light was created equal. I thought all water was the same. You know, I thought everything I needed to know about water, I learned in approximately the 4th grade, where it's just like, it's H2O. Got it. Great. The H2Os interact with each other. You know, maybe a little bit later in high school, I learned about bonding, covalent hydrogen, promptly forgot it and never thought anything of it again. And then as I was exploring this light and how this light kind of interacts with our body, yes, it does interact with our bodies in a way where we're receiving the frequencies, and we're taking that information and kickstarting pathways. But there's also a wavelength range of light in the infrared spectrum that actually changes the structure of the water inside of our bodies. And that to me was like, what? And so when I found that out, I recognized it really brought me into Jerry Pollack's work called the 4th phase of water. And so easy water, EZ water, exclusion zone water, the 4th phase of water, structured water. Now the research is all agreeing to call it coherent water. But basically what they're saying is that water actually can organize itself that in a way that has some structure to it. If I were to look at just regular water under a microscope or under a molecular microscope without having done any structuring to it, or even the what we would call the bulk water in my body, which also is very similar, I would see these H2O molecules and they would kind of be bouncing around. And I call it like a dance party, right? Like this H2O molecule is going to dance with this partner, and then it's going to dance with this partner, and then it's going to dance. There's really no structure or organization to it. It's just a much more random bonding. Yeah. But when you look at water, when it has a structure, you start to see that the H's and the O's begin to align themselves into very unique geometries. And in a glass of water, when it's structured, those geometries, those patterns are called like microclusters. They contain information, right? It's how water can hold information. So we're going back to homeopathy and all those controversial things that I don't think are controversial, but it's like that water has memory and water can hold information. And then in our bodies, when water comes in contact with a biological surface, which is everywhere, it organizes itself into a really specific geometry, almost these honeycomb sheets of H's and O's, where the O's are at the vertices and the H's are in between. And it basically orders the water and structures it the same way if I were to look under a molecular microscope at a crystal or an ice cube, a very structured arrangement. So if I looked at a crystal, you'll see that just these very ordered arrangements of the atoms. Now we know that water in the body next to these biological surfaces does the same thing, but we're not solid ice, right? Like I'm flexible, I'm fluid,
Yeah.
I got the pinchies, I can move my body. So we now know that water takes on the form of a liquid crystal. So it's arranged like a crystal, but still has a liquid fluidity to it. And it can change and shift. It adapts quite a bit. But that liquid crystalline water then has so many of the characteristics that define life itself. And so that I mean, you want to go into that? I mean, can we go into that right now?
Go into it, please.
Right. So like all of a sudden, when Jerry figured this out and found that this water takes on this ordered liquid crystalline form, he then you do some chemistry, your math. It's like, I'm going to count the H's, count the O's, count the electrons, count the protons. And he realized it has a negative charge. And that's not like water in a glass. Like if I were just to take regular water in a glass and put in a meter to measure charge, it would be neutral. Like no electrical, electrons, no protons. It's just neutral. It's the same amount. They balance each other out. And so for him to find that now this water inside of our bodies next to every single biological surface has a negative charge, it means it's a conduit for electricity. It has electrical flow capacity, it has electron flow. And then in order to form this structure, what had to happen was, as these H's and O's were arranging themselves, they had to kick out a proton. And so now we recognize we have a biological surface, electrically negatively charged structure in that easy water. And now we've got what's considered like a proton wire right here, a big line of protons. So this is actually, and Dr. Pollack has shown that if you stick a little tiny electrode in the positive charge proton zone and in the negatively charged exclusion zone, it lights a light bulb. It means that we now have the capacity in the body to generate work and electricity and flow in ways that in such a simplified explanation, as opposed to this, that this enzyme needs to diffuse here. And it really simplifies biochemistry, and it makes us realize that our body runs on what's called biophysics, the electrons and protons and photons of light. And the thing I think that really made me astonished was when Dr. Pollack's lab showed that the exclusion zone will naturally form next to biological surfaces, but in response to infrared light, which the sun always contains at least 40 to 50% infrared, no matter the time of day, no matter the year, that infrared light was able to expand the exclusion zone fourfold, meaning we can charge this electrical capacity, this energy capacity in sunlight, using sunlight. And it can be a cloudy day, it can be a sunny day, it doesn't matter. And so that's where I started to make connections as a clinician as well, saying most people live indoors. Most people have circadian disruption. So because we're not going outside, most people, modern window glass blocks a lot of the infrared, almost all of it. Modern light bulbs don't have any of that infrared. We're not using the incandescents. We're not using campfire or candlelight anymore. So really, not only are we confusing the timing in our body, we are no longer charging this water battery either. And so no wonder if this water battery and this negative charge really dictates health, which it does, every cell is negatively charged, and this is why, and it needs to maintain a set amount of negative charge to run every program. And if we're depleting that, it means these cells don't have the energy they need to run all of their tasks. And so they got to pick and choose. Like a cell phone battery gets to a certain threshold, it's like, no, you can't use the flash anymore. Sorry, that's not an essential function.
So when you're in your low battery mode and everything out, all the background stuff is stopped, and it's literally, and
exactly.
Then, so do you think that, I'm just sort of saying what's in my brain, but my brain is saying, well, is that why there's so many strange kind of illnesses in modern times, like autoimmune, and would it explain a lot of the sort of allergies and because if you're running on no energy because you're not charging yourself properly, things are going to sort of get knocked out, aren't they? Your body's going to go, well, I can't cope with doing all that, so I'm just going to knock that out. Don't want to digest that anymore. That's really hard work, etc.
But it's so simple. The solution potentially is so simple, yet it's just not talked about or discussed. I mean, if you spoke to this about, I've worked in the sort of medical world, if you like, and if I spoke about this to some of my doctor friends or what have you, they would be like, what are you talking about?
Well,
yeah, they would call you absolutely crazy for sure.
We're finding out that a lot of the solutions to things are very, very simple. So simple that people just
structured water, grounding, correct light therapy, infrared therapy, cold plunging.
Yeah, just very simple, natural things. And in a way, medicine or whatever science has complicated everything so much that everyone thinks, well, I've got a complex problem, so the answer must be complex. And when actually
it isn't. And I think people forget that if their bodies are fueled properly, be it from the sun, from the earth, from wherever, that they are incredible healing machines.
Yeah.
And we've all lost that kind of thing in our brain where we can self-heal.
We've lost faith in the intelligence of our own body.
Yeah.
Because we've been told for so long in the narrative that our body doesn't know how to fix it, that it needs something from outside, it needs a pill, it needs a tablet, it needs a
intervention.
Yeah, and actually our body is just so intelligent.
It needs nature in its correct form.
Well, I keep thinking these days, this is our realm, we belong here, we were made to live here, to be here, to look after the planet, the animals, whatever. So why would our natural environment be harmful to us in any way, and why wouldn't it be feeding us and
photosynthesizing, basically?
Yeah, we are, aren't we? Are we a bit like plants?
We're absolutely like plants. We're so like plants. I mean, plants, the first thing plants do when they capture light is they split a water molecule, and it kickstarts a whole pathway that creates carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
And then we as humans have so many ways to interact with light. I would say we're even more photosynthetic than plants because we absorb that light and create this exclusion zone water battery. We absorb that light actually, and we split water molecules with it as well, based on melanin pigments on our skin, in our eyes, in our brain. We actually we can also derive energy from water in so many ways. And I think where everything went awry was what I assumed was that water is not involved. Water is a solvent. Water is there. It does nothing. And so in all of the biochemistry research, water surrounds every molecule in the body, but it was never taken into consideration. And it's water that does all the work. It changes the shape of things. It changes the shape of proteins. It changes the shape of receptors. It actually can provide the activation energy for things to take place. And so we've just really, like we said, water is 99 out of every 100 molecules. 99 is water. We focused on the 1%. The biochemistry, and then we've kind of let that biochemistry get usurped because it's complex, and I obviously, as just the average citizen, can't understand that, so I must need a medication to help this biochemical pathway. When you focus on the water, it's everything.
Yeah. So structured water, so how, for just sort of anyone out there who wants to try structured water, we've got like one of those iTerra wand things, so you can charge the water with one of those, and then I know there's some of those machines that you can buy that you can put it in. But I did see the other day that you can simply structure water as simply as having either a crystal or a stone from the earth, marbles, and literally get a jug and filter it through, and the movement of that water will structure the water.
Or through a
vortex.
Yep. And then it makes a vortex.
So then a vortex.
Yeah.
Or even a spoon and stirring.
Yeah, I'm gonna one up that even. You can take your glass of water. Now this is empty, but you can take a glass of water and just think happy thoughts.
Yeah, put it in there.
Because it's got the memory and it's got the ability.
We're going to get cut off in about a minute, Carrie. So we're going to send you another link and continue a part 2 of this. So we will pick up with how easy it is to structure water when we get back. Is that good?
Sounds great.
Okay, we'll send you the next link. See you in a minute. Bye.